This morning, let's explore nonviolence, veganism, and empathy. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. This is the Lama you were looking for. This morning, you could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. If at any point during this morning's live stream you have a question, don't be shy. Let me rephrase that. If you have a question about meditation or philosophy or even how to chant, simply type your question in the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen. Unless, of course, you're watching a replay, then you'll want to type your question in the comment area below the video. One moment, I need to pause to hose my nose. Thank you for your patience. Let us explore the topic of harmlessness, drawn from the Dhammapada by translator Thomas by Rome, adapted by yours truly. This is one of my favorite passages. All beings tremble before violence. All fear death, all love life. See yourself in others, then whom can you hurt? What harm can you do? He who seeks happiness by hurting those who seek happiness will never find happiness. For your sibling is like you, they want to be happy. Never harm them, and when you leave this life, you too will find happiness. Let's take a deeper dive. All beings tremble before violence, all fear death, all love life. In the 70s, the idea of a triune brain was popular, and we came up with phrases like reptilian brain, mammalian brain, and simian brain, or primate brain. And yes, we could say that only that mammals are wired to love and to want to be loved, just like us. That would include dogs and cows and pigs and dogs and cats, which is beautiful. But what about animals that humans exploit that are non-mammals? Well, all animals on this planet are wired to hunger for life and to dread both death and injury. Whether you're dealing with insects or birds or fish. And then, of course, including all the mammals as well. And when you speak to a veterinary neuroscientist or neurologist, they'll tell you that the parts of the brain dedicated to survival are virtually identical amongst vertebrates, and that the parts of the brain dedicated to love and empathy are virtually identical, which means that we're not that different from the animals that our societies choose to exploit and torture and murder for our pleasure. So let's take a deeper look at that. 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path pertains to loving kindness. 50%. Not 1/4, not 1/8, 50%. Let that sink in. The path to peace is not paved with cruelty. And we could say, but I didn't know. I was raised in a society where it was thought that it was good and right and healthy. But now you do know. Let's explore health. I'm not sure, I might have my proper nouns off, but one of either the World Health Organization or something very much like it, years ago, has issued a statement that a well-planned, whole food vegan diet is suitable for all humans of all ages, athlete and non-athlete, child and adult, regardless of gender. The exploitation and the torture and the murder of animals is not required for our survival. In fact, it is contraindicated for our survival. When you take a moment to poke around the description area below the video, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to hit button 8, and I'm going to go over here. So when you poke around the description area below the video, which I'm trying to access right now, under the heading of veganism, vegan education, there is a bunch of links to free stuff, including, and it's not really there, is it? Whoops, wrong button. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. So, here we go. Under Depression, nutritionfacts.org, they've got wonderful videos on the subject. They put out a book, which isn't free, but the information in the book is for free on YouTube, that the majority of the top medical killers are all due to consuming a animal-based diet. If we consume a diet that is animal-based and or processed diet, we get the leading killers. We get heart attack, and cancer, and diabetes, and the like. Let's return to page 5. Here we go. Back in the 70s, good old Richard M. Milhouse Nixon proposed a war on cancer. And not 100%, but the majority of all cancers can be prevented or reversed by switching to a whole food vegan diet. Now, clearly, if one's cancer is caused by exposure to a environmental carcinogen, that's a bit different. But the majority of cancers people endure are triggered by diet. So we do not have a physical requirement to exploit or torture or murder other sentient beings. Let's continue with this thought. Some people say, but changing things will be hard on the economy. You know, whenever the most profitable institutions have an error in the stock market, the government bails them out. So our government is fully capable of helping industry. It's done it many times before. It's a question of whether it has the political will. Sometimes people in government can be ruthless and let people suffer. When we switched over from, when slavery was abolished, there were some business models that failed. In a truly enlightened society, people will be given means to support themselves temporarily. People will be given means to educate themselves and find new economic applications of their interests and talents and skill sets. So changes can be made, and the government has the capability, if not intention, to help the little guy. We already know it'll help the big guy. But if there's no reason why others should suffer because of failures of our government. As humanity evolves, there are going to be changes, and many changes are, in the short term, inconvenient. It was worth it to abolish slavery. It was worth it to give women the right to vote. Do these things create a more? Does change create complication? Yes, chaos theory teaches that, but that is not necessarily bad. Convenience is neither a guarantee of good or bad. It simply is, and to put the well-being of others under our personal convenience is an indictment. Let me look. I'm going to hit button number 7 real quick. Take you over to an artist's rendering of the cross-section of the human brain. This region of the brain is known as the anterior cingulate gyrus. It serves as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy. Every healthy mammal is wired for empathy. Those of us who are born without that wiring are known as psychopaths. Those of us who have been conditioned to disregard empathy are known as sociopaths. If you want to be a quote-unquote good person, you have to be empathetic. When the prefrontal cortex teams up with our underbrain, the amygdala, we may be clever. But it is only by the prefrontal cortex teaming up with the anterior cingulate gyrus that we become wise. Our humanity, globally, is dying for lack of wisdom. Short-term cleverness is working quite diligently, inadvertently, to set our species up for extinction or near extinction, possibly the fall of civilization. So much for cleverness. We need wisdom. Wisdom is empathetic. Wisdom knows at this point that we do not need to torture, exploit, or murder non-human animals for the sake of our survival. In the description area below the video, there are links to free things you can watch on Netflix that demonstrate, use hard science to demonstrate the deleterious effect of animal agriculture on the environment. Many of our environmental problems could be solved if all of humanity switched over to a sustainable variation of a whole food vegan diet. Can change be scary? Yes. Can change be inconvenient? Yes. But if we wish to survive as a species, no less thrive, change is mandatory. Change is mandatory in the way we exist within the ecosystem. And so for the sake of survival, if we are to survive, change must come to the way we relate to other living beings. It has been said by one much more clever than myself that the way we do one thing is quite often the way we do many things, if not all things. If 3 or more times a day we are dining on the fruit of others' exploitation, torture, and murder, that is undermining our empathy. Undermine your empathy in one area, and it's easier to undermine your empathy in other areas, in terms of sexism, or racism, or classism, or fascism, or jingoism. Does that mean that going whole food vegan will change everything all at once? No. But the more empathetic you are in various parts of your life, the harder it will be to be cruel and malicious and negligent and other areas of life, like a wonderful, virtuous domino effect. In my view of things, as someone who spent the majority of his life practicing and studying the teachings of Lao Tzu and the Buddha, this is an invaluable tool. Now, whenever there is a luminary, just as moths are drawn to a flame, people who are stuck in patriarchy will be drawn to him. People who are rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, and competitive will be drawn to them. And sometimes those people are forced out of their own organizations. Sometimes after those people die, their teachings are subverted. Often non-maliciously, incrementally, death of 1,000 cuts, you might say. So, and we see this, not just in religious, in terms of religion, but also in the secular world. We see this with the vocational world, in the recreational world, the interpersonal world. We see the ensconcing of patriarchal views. So it is not surprising when you look at the corpus of Buddhist literature that there are pieces of literature that do not appear to have been written by the same hand, metaphorically speaking, by every metric: vocabulary, syntax, meter, subject, theme. It's a strong argument could be made that just because something is considered the Buddha's teachings doesn't mean it is the Buddha's teachings. Personally, I like the keep it simple, stupid way of traversing the Enlightenment's path. I keep to the most basic teachings. You know, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, Heart Sutra, Metta Sutta, you know, Anapanasati Sutta, just a handful of scriptures, universally accepted. And yes, it is quite possible that rules supporting animal husbandry and rules supporting the consumption of animal products might have been inserted in the Buddha's teachings. But the core practice of love is antithetical to benefiting from the needless exploitation of others. If you want to do something and you're clever, you'll probably find a way to do it. And if you're also a trifle sanctimonious, you'll find a way to justify doing it And if you're really, really special, you'll find a way of demeaning those who don't indulge the way you do. I kid you not. But just because you can be clever, and it's because we can twist the words attributed to the Buddha, who may or may not have existed, doesn't make what we do right. Ask a neuroscientist. They will tell you, as mammals, we evolved to be empathetic. And every choice we make can support that empathy or undermine that empathy. All neurologies are subject to neuroplasticity. The less we use something, the weaker it gets. The more we use something, the stronger it gets. The more we undermine our empathy, the weaker it gets. The more we act on our empathy, the stronger it gets. The Buddha said the key to taking an auspicious rebirth was training and love. Not ritual, not magic, not faith, love. But not everyone's Buddhist. Take a gander at the Christian New Testament. Look at the supremacy of love in 1 Corinthians 13 or the first epistle of John. Perfect love drives out fear. Why? God is love. Let us choose love. Let us choose empathy. Let us choose compassion. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Before we start chanting and meditating, I would like to take approximately 15 seconds for housekeeping. If there are lessons you'd like to request, or if you simply wish to support the continued availability of these classes, there is a Patreon link in the description area below the video. Oops, time to hose the nose again. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm back. I'd like to take a moment to make a quick mini lesson, a quick 30-second lesson. I want to share it with our friends on TikTok, so I'm going to put on my lapel mic.
You see, it used to be legal. That is until white people...
Oh, right. Let's see. I'm looking for this button. Here we go. All right, thank you for your patience. One of my favorite quotes attributed to Albert Einstein is as follows: "Any educated idiot can make things more complicated, more difficult, and more violent. However, it takes a lot of courage and a little bit of genius to move in the opposite direction. This aphorism can be applied to the general practice of meditation and the practice of Buddhism specifically. Throughout the millennia, there have been individuals who've tried to both simplify the Buddhist practice and make it also more efficient. That is a guiding principle in the way I practice and teach. So when you come, be forewarned. I don't want to give anybody a shock. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to it. It's 26 minutes after the hour. Let's do some chanting. Let's begin by blending love and enthusiasm. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example and instructions and students. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example and instructions and students. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example and instructions and students. Let's chant the Heart of Wisdom Sutra. One moment. Let's see. Fabulous. The enlightening being who notices the curse of the world while moving in the deep peace of perfect understanding. Shed light on the five aggregates and found them equally empty. After this realization, she overcame all pain. So we're going to stop right here and flesh some things out. The five aggregates is just a way of organizing experience. It's the Buddha was not keen on metaphysics. If you find a teacher who emphasizes metaphysics, they're probably in error. Buddha was very trenchant and pragmatic. We'll explore the five aggregates in greater detail in a few minutes. The real confusing thing in Buddhism is the word empty or emptiness or voidness, or if you prefer Sanskrit, shunyata, or suchness, which is related to the idea of anatta or no self. So to understand emptiness, we have to understand it within the context of meditation. So let's do that right now. As we inhale, we could, to practice mindfulness, as we inhale, we could silently and mentally recite, notice this. To practice meditation, as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. Now, why would we do that? Every inhalation accesses our sympathetic nervous system automatically, and thus supports the sensory acuity that allows us to notice sensations, flavors, scents, sounds, sights, and the like, as well as emotions, intentions, reason, recollection, and imagination. We are wired to do so, and the most efficient way to do so, and the most beneficial way to do so, is to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and spontaneously. When we do that, the only label we need ever use is simply the pronoun this. But what are we to do with all this stuff that we notice? Fortunately, every time we exhale, we automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, which supports both our physical relaxation as well as our mental release. We can release our habitual resistance to the presence of what we hate, to the absence of what we crave, to the loss of that to which we cling. We could let go of these things in a beneficial way. Now, all vertebrate life on this planet evolved to think symbolically. First we perceived, then we began anticipating perceptions or recalling perceptions. That laid the evolutionary groundwork for thinking. So, what follows is a simile to understand the word emptiness in Buddhist teachings. Whatever we notice as we breathe in, once we exhale, could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Now, a simile is only as beneficial as it is relatable. So, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky and a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand? There you go. Emptiness is not supposed to be the object of pseudo-intellectual skullduggery. It is not supposed to be the object of blind and rigid belief. It's simply a metaphor that we use to enhance the yogic practice of aligning our intention with the mindfulness and meditation latent with every inhalation and exhalation, respectively. To recapture our momentum, let's begin at the top of the page. Shed light on the five aggregates and found them equally empty. After this realization, she overcame all pain. Contrary to the ravings of fundamentalists, emptiness is not a panacea. Emptiness is not a work around the basic duality of dread and desire. There's still going to be things that are horrible. There's still going to be things that are beneficial. Emptiness does not give us a Teflon halo, but it does help us to make peace with the present moment, whether that present moment is glorious or grotesque, interesting or boring, physical or mental, internal or external. Whatever's going on, we can make peace with it by using the Buddha's mental yogas. Let's continue. Listen, Shariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form. This is just a poetic application of the ideas we just explored. And now we're going to revisit the idea of the five aggregates. The same is true with feeling, appraisal, impulse, and awareness. Controlling tendencies do not serve us well in the Buddha's path. One of the ways we tend to control is by labeling things, or at least we try to control by labeling things. And so whether you describe your experience in terms of form, feeling, appraisal, impulse, awareness, or body, pleasure, pain, neither intensity, shoving, reaching, clinging, or mental experience, whatever facet you carve life into can still be noticed as we breathe in and released to a certain degree as we breathe out. Let's continue with our chanting. Listen, Shariputra, phenomena marked with emptiness. Everything that we notice, we can let go of. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither corrupted nor purified, neither increasing nor decreasing. So, in other words, there's nothing produced that cannot be noticed and then let go of. There's nothing destroyed that cannot be noticed and then let go of. There's no corruption that cannot be noticed and let go of. There's no purification that cannot be noticed and let go of. The following contemplation was inspired by the Shastra of the third Shan patriarch. This and that, how not to. So, it's good to know that throughout the millennia, great men and women have meditated through the various phrases of the Heart of Wisdom Sutta. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, feeling, no appraisal, no impulse, no awareness, And it's like a book, and we're revisiting the 5 aggregates before shoving on. We're going to now deconstruct the 3 circles of experience, and that traces its origin back to the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, popularized by the Theravadan tradition in Southeast Asia. No sensation, no flavor, no sound, no sight, no phenomena. No body, no tongue, no nose, no eyes, no ears, no mind. No feeling, no tasting, no smelling, no hearing, no seeing, no noticing. So basically, this is just a set of 18 contemplations. Sensation, relaxing, this body, relaxing, this feeling, relaxing. So if one wanted to, we could play with all 18 of these exercises, and that could be fine. No interdependent origins and no extinction of them from confusion to old age and death. Now, although I've listed the 12 links, they're not important. You know they're not important because they're dealt with in a really offhand manner in the text. No stress, no exacerbation, no liberation, no path, no understanding, no attainment. So this right here is basically the 4 Noble Truths. So everything, even the founding pillars of Buddhism, can be noticed and can be released in harmony with our breathing. Same thing with the goal of Buddhism, enlightenment. It can be noticed and it can be released, which is crucial to traversing the Buddhist path in a distinctly non-neurotic manner. Let's continue. Because there is no attainment, the Buddhist office supported. By the perfection of understanding, find no obstacles for their minds. Because anything we notice, we can let go of. We can escape the tyranny of pseudo-spiritual, pseudo-intellectual philosophizing or blind, rigid faith. Having no obstacles, they overcome the tyranny of fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. So notice, this infers that even though we're able to let go of something, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist and can't be accomplished. So what does it mean to overcome the tyranny of fear? Well, we haven't been lobotomized. We still experience the full spectrum of human emotion, but the fear no longer hijacks our choices, our utterances, or deeds. Jerry Seinfeld had a wonderful bit. People justifying outrageous behavior by saying, I panicked. Together. All Buddhas of the past, present, and future, thanks to this perfect understanding, arrived at full right and universal enlightenment. And therefore one should know that perfect understanding is like a great mantra, is like an unequaled mantra. So, I have paraphrased and amplified this text. Whenever you see something in standard font that's italicized, that's me doing a word substitution. Whenever you see something in brackets in smaller font, also italicized, that's me doing a word addition. That's how I reverse engineer metaphors back into similes. Anybody who has graduated elementary school should basically understand what a simile is and how to navigate it. So let's recapture the conceptual momentum. Therefore one should know that perfect understanding is like a great mantra, is like an unequal mantra. That is an error I will quickly remedy. The destroyer of all suffering, the incorruptible truth. A mantra prajnaparamita should therefore be proclaimed. Prajnaparamita simply means the perfection of wisdom. And this is the mantra gate gate para samgati bodhi swan. May also notice, relax, and release that we all go completely and perfectly go to enlightenment. So I'm going to do a quick edit so that you're able to delineate a paraphrase from an amplification, or an adaptation from an amplification. That's just my little nerdy eccentricity, don't mind that. Okay. So before we meditate, I need to take a moment for editing page 24. I need to remember that number, Control G. 24, the screen's going to go nuts. I will tend to the nutsiness of the display momentarily. All right. Display has been synchronized. I thank you for your patience. So we've already explored how to perform the essence of mindfulness and meditation. Now, the mind is not always resting. Sometimes it's active, just like a cat or a dog or a kid. You know, sometimes it's just out for the count, other times it's having the zoomies. So when our mind is having the zoomies, manifesting as exhaustion or agitation or shoving or reaching or clinging or anything like that, what I like to do is play with these 4 exercises for 1 repetition each. We play, the 3 of them are rhetorical questions. One is purely an intention. We do not need to manipulate our emotions or visualize things. Just playing with these words in harmony with our breathing and our relaxing is sufficient. The 6th fold of the 8-fold path is zeal or enthusiasm. And I recommend, especially during these 4 contemplations, that you breathe with a modicum of enthusiasm. How could this feel stressful? That's kind of like a no-duh. And once we recognize how distasteful the stress is, we're able to look at all others and say, now for all, soothe their stress. So this isn't magic, this is simply exercising the neural pathways responsible for empathy. Our 3rd exercise is, how could this never last? And our 4th exercise is, how could this not be me? As nonsensical as these may seem, or as uncomfortable or as unnerving as these may seem, they can help us to navigate the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Remember the commercial for the Hair Club for Men? I'm not just the CEO, I'm also a client. Well, same thing for this. I have navigated the slings and arrows of my own life as far as difficult health conditions and difficult circumstances I've been subjected to by using this stuff. So I know it works, and that's why I share it with you. It is 45 minutes after the hour. Let's meditate. I'm not going to lie to you. If you have a stuffy nose, you can always do this by breathing out your mouth. It's better than asphyxiating, but it's just not as effective. Our neurology is optimized by nose breathing rather than mere mouth breathing. Hence the term glazed-eyed, slack-jawed, mouth-breathing knuckle dragger. Back in the 80s, when I was an enthusiastic Christian fundamentalist, it dawned on me that there's something inherently violent about trying to convince someone of anything. Trying to basically subvert their intellectual autonomy. And most people are not defenseless. Most people will use all sorts of mechanisms, including subtle deceit and excuses. But the fact is, if someone is not, 9 times out of 10, if someone's not enthusiastically doing something, they don't want to do it, and you give them reasons why, it's just like teaching a pig to sing. It wastes your time and annoys the pig. So many people say meditation is a selfish thing, you can't change the world with meditation, but I keep coming back to this wonderful artist who had a series of dominoes. The first one about the size of an almond. And he stacked them on their edges. And the first one the first teeny tiny domino knocked into a domino just a little bit bigger. And then knocked into a domino just a little bit bigger. And so forth and so on until eventually the end result, the end chain reaction that was triggered by an almond-sized domino knocked over a domino the size of a door. Heavy and substantial. The inference is what was taught in chaos theory, that A butterfly on a shrub in Beijing, articulating its wings to evaporate the dew, could set in motion a circuitous chain of events resulting in a thunderstorm in Central Park halfway around the world. Reality is complex, but malleable, frangible. And we can do so without being controlling or domineering, just by being centered and spontaneous and loving. And the easiest way to do that is to meditate and contemplate therapeutically. let us perform 2 final chants for sharing our good vibes. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness for spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from stress, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging free. As well as chant and meditate. Until then, may your nose be happy.